aspirants. Today in this class we'll be dealing with a new topic under Indian Contract Act. So this new topic is quite interesting and also very easy. That is contract of bailment. Contract of bailment is dealt from section 148 to 171. You find under this sections the provisions relating to contract of bailment. Now let's try to know first what is contract of bailment. Then we'll proceed to know what are the important points in contract of bailment which you have to note it so that it will be very easy for you to understand the further things. Next we'll go to the number of parties. Later we'll discuss about the essentials of contract of bailment. Later we'll move on to their rights and their duties. Fine. First we'll discuss what is contract of bailment. One person by name Chitti has given a wonderful explanation what contract of bailment means. He says that it is a delivery of goods to another person. That another person not being a servant for some purpose upon a condition. That condition may be expressed or it may be implied. That after the purpose for which it is delivered is fulfilled, it shall be redelivered back to that owner or it shall be otherwise dealt in a way in which the owner orders or directs to be dealt, or he'll keep it till he reclaims it back. So there are few points to be done. Let us break this definition what is given by a person called Chitti and we'll find out what it is. First he says that the delivery of goods to another person. There are some goods, it will be delivered to another person. That other person can be anyone other than a servant. First point here. Next he says, for some purpose. There is a purpose for delivering that goods. And there is also a condition. He says, for some purpose upon a condition. So there is a condition for that. That condition can be expressed or implied. That is, you know what is expressed and implied. It may be written or it may be understood. By the very nature, you can understand that it is for that purpose. And he has delivered it, and after that purpose is fulfilled, he can reclaim it. He can ask that particular goods to be redelivered back to him. That is, the owner can ask back, give me those goods back. Or else he can say that person to whom he has delivered to dispose it, or to you please dispose it, or he gives some directions to how to deal with that particular good. Or else if he doesn't give any direction or if he doesn't reclaims back, he has to keep it until he claims it back. So this is the definition given by Chitti. It is very clear what is meant by contract of bailment. It is clearly explained in detail, also bit lengthy but very easy to understand. So what does Chitti says? The delivery of goods to another other than a servant with some purpose upon a condition, whether it's express or implied, that after the purpose is fulfilled, they shall be redelivered to the owner or otherwise dealt with according to his directions or kept till it is reclaimed back by them. So this is the definition given by Chitti. Now let's come back to Contract Act. So what does your Contract Act say? This particular definition is dealt in section 148. Your 148 section says that bailment is delivery of goods by one person to another for some purpose upon a contract, and when the purpose is accomplished, to be returned or disposed of as per the persons delivering them, or as per the directions of the person delivering them. So it is very much similar to whatever the definition I told you before. That is, a person by name Chitti who is given the definition. It is quite similar, but it is a bit elaborative. This is quite simple. Whatever your section 148 says. It says that, break it. Payment is delivery of goods by one person to another person. there's some purpose upon a contract. Third point, and when the purpose is accomplished. Fourth point, to be returned or disposed of as per the directions of a person delivering them. So this is how you have to study. So always try to break the definition and try to analyze it so it becomes much easier for you. So point number 1, delivery of goods. Point number 2, there is some purpose. There is also a contract, that is contract of bailment, and there is a purpose to be accomplished. And third one, it is returned or disposed of. It is returned back to that person, or he says, please dispose of, please give it to someone else. He may order it. So whatever the directions he gives, that has to be fulfilled. Got it? So I think you are clear with section 148. Do remember this section 148. It gives the definition of contract of bailment. The next part. The next part is very important. There are certain important points to be noted here. Where do you get these important points? Just by analyzing the definition here, you can get these important points. These are very important for you, and even if you have to, when you are answering in any questions, you have to answer this also, so that we fetch you more marks. The more important points here is, there is transfer of possession of goods, right? Possession of goods. Remember, in contract of bailment, there is always transfer of possession, not the ownership. The ownership is not given to the other person. It is only giving him for a time being. See, I have the stock in my hand and I am giving it to my friend. So I am just giving the possession of the stock. That's all. See, that is clear. I am not transferring that the title itself so that he gets the ownership of this. I'm just giving, you have it, that's all. So that is possession of goods. Clear? Who holds it either for or at the direction of the owner. Now I told you I give the stock, so that other person, he holds it for a timing. He keeps it safely, or I say, see, I don't need this stock, now you can give it to someone else, I give the order. So I am giving a direction, or I am telling you only keep it for some time. Point number 2 is clear. To whom they will be returned. So it says that if at all I don't give any direction, if I ask him to return, he has to return back to me. Got it? It is always the possession I am giving to the other person, not the ownership. Remember, the contract of bailment, whenever you get the questions, you have to remember certain points which are really very, very important. The next is ownership with her. If you notice, their ownership with one person and the possession with the another. It says that ownership is with one person, right? I am the owner of this pen. See, I am the owner of this pen, but I give it to my friend. So my friend has this possession of this pen. Got it? So ownership with one person and possession with another. Delivery of possession is for temporary purpose. As I told you, I am giving this pen to my friend. It is for a temporary purpose. I may ask him to give back after 1 month, or after writing down your notes, please give it back to me. Or I may ask him to keep it for himself itself. So that is, it is for temporary purpose. Always remember, it is for temporary purpose. I may ask him, I may claim back, or I may not. Now let's go to the next point. There must be delivery of possession but not transfer of ownership. Always do remember, this is a very, very important point. Why I am explaining this in detail, because if you know this basic concepts, then you can answer all questions relevant to contract of bailment. If the basic concepts are clear, then the bailment will become very easy. It's a very easy chapter. You can remember it very easily. So there must be delivery of possession and not transfer of ownership. That means always I give this possession. That's it. I am not transferring the ownership to other person. You write it and you give it back to me. This is my pen. I am the owner of this pen. I have paid and I have taken. So you give it back to me. So it is always possession you are giving. The next point is delivery of goods. So now we came across saying that everywhere that there is a delivery of goods, delivery of goods, delivery of goods. What sort of goods are delivered? It is always movable property. Always movable property. Here, whenever you come across this word delivery of goods, it is usually movable properties. Okay? So under bailment, you have to remember these points which are really very important, that it is always the possession which is being transferred and not the ownership. Point number 1. It is for a temporary purpose. Point number 2. Then the owner can claim it back or give some direction to what to do with those goods which he has given it to the other person. Number 4, it is always, delivery always means a movable property. It is always movable property. So, by knowing the definition given by one person called Chitti, and by knowing the definition of section 148, and knowing few of the important points which are really very relevant to contract of bailment, now we move on to the next part, that is parties. Who are the parties? When you go through your definition under section 148, your section 148 includes the parties also. It says that after completion of this, there are 2 parties in this contract of bailment. They are bailor and bailee. Now, who is a bailor and who is a bailee? Bailor is a person who delivers the goods. He is a person who is giving the goods. I am giving this pen, so I become the bailor. So, bailee is a person to whom goods are delivered. That means to whom I am giving the good. I am giving this to my friend. So, my friend becomes a bailee. Got it? Remember, bailor is a person who delivers the goods and bailee is a person who receives the goods, who gets the goods. Got it? Possession is given to the bailee by the bailor. Under contract of bailment, the first essential is delivery of goods for some purpose. There is some purpose for which the delivery of goods have to be made. What is this delivery under bailment? What it says, delivery means here transfer of possession from one person to another. Here only it is transfer of possession. You are not giving the ownership. Only you are giving the possession of the goods. So, delivery need not be always actual here. It can be constructive or symbolic also. Well, you will be knowing how it is constructive and symbolic in further parts. But as of now, when you say delivery of goods under bailment, it is delivery of possession only. Section 149 of Indian Contract Act gives the meaning of delivery. It says, delivery to a bailee may be made by doing anything which has an effect of putting the bailee in, to the possession of the goods, possession in the goods, or to the intended bailee, or else to his agent. So you are giving a possession of goods to the intended bailee or to his agent. That forms delivery under section 149 of Indian Contract Act. Let's take an example. Now, I sell my watch. I have a watch and I sell my watch to other person. Let's take to B. I sell the watch. I was the owner of this watch. Now I am selling it to him. He becomes the owner. He is my friend. He says that you keep the watch with you for some days, for a period of 1 month. After that, I will take it from you. Now, what is my position in this new agreement? My position is of a bailee. I have to take care of his goods properly. So, the person who has given me the watch is the bailor. I am the bailee. So, I have to take reasonable care and return it to the watch whenever the owner asks for it. Clear with this? Okay. Even in case of finder of goods, the person who is going to find the goods, he is deemed bailee. He is deemed to be bailee of those goods. Clear with the basic information on the delivery of goods? Yes. Fine. Now let's move on to the case to understand it in a better way. The first case is Jagdish Chandratrika versus Punjab National Bank. In this case, what happens is, The plaintiff's father had entrusted a box of jewelries and other ornaments of worth 480 tholas, that is about 5600 grams of ornaments or jewelries, to the defendant bank, that is which was there in Peshawar, Pakistan before. There he had gone and he had deposited the jewelries and other ornaments in Peshawar branch of defendant bank. That is before the partition of the country. Clear? Then later on what happens? At that time when he deposited in Peshawar, it was neatly locked, also wrapped and also sealed when it was given. And also a proper receipt was received regarding the contents of the box. Everything was given at Peshawar branch. Then later, from Peshawar branch, it went to Lahore branch. From Peshawar, it came to Lahore, and from Lahore, it came to Delhi. So in Delhi, the plaintiff goes and he shows the receipts and he requests to give the box. When he receives the box, he finds that the box was not in the condition as it was delivered. The box was not locked. The seal was not proper. The seal of Lahore branch was put. The wrappers of Lahore branch was put and it was not locked. Now the plaintiff files a case saying that they had a duty to take reasonable care and also they were liable for the amount worth 3,72,400. Now the court held that the position of the bank was that of the bailee. They had to take reasonable care. They had to exercise due diligence and take reasonable care. Since it has failed in its duty, yes, the bank was liable for the amount, that is 3,72,400 plus a simple interest at 12% annum from the date of institution of the suit till the date of realization of the amount. Clear with this? The bank here was made liable. The next point to be noted here is there any formal arrangement or agreement necessary to become a contract of bailment? The answer to this question lies in this particular case law. Alston versus Nichols. In this case, the plaintiff went to the defendant's restaurant. There the waiter came. Without being asked, he removes the coat of the plaintiff. He removes it and he hangs it just behind the plaintiff, where the plaintiff was sitting. Then later when the plaintiff wanted to leave, he found that the coat was missing. It is lost. So now in this case it was held that yes, the defendants became the bailee and they were liable for the court. Even though there was no formal agreement as such, still they became bailee. As the servant has made a mistake, it was he who removed the coat without being asked for. Thereby, they became bailee, and for the acts of servant, the master was liable. So therefore, the defendants were liable for the loss of coat due to negligence. The next part is if the owner has a control over the goods. If the owner is having a control over the goods, in such cases, there is no bailment. How? Let's see. In this particular case, that is Kalai Pramal Pillai versus Vishalakshmi, what happens? A lady took her old jewels to a goldsmith and gets it melted, and later she gets it converted into a new jewelry. Every evening she used to do the same. She used to go there, take the old jewels, get it melted and make it into a new jewelry. And whatever part is over, I mean the jewelry, if it is melted, even if it is half done, she had a box and she also had a lock, and it was in the premises of that goldsmith itself. She kept the jewelry and locked it, and the keys were with her. She did not give it to the goldsmith or a jeweler. The keys were in her possession. So she had the control over the goods. One night the jewels are lost. Now it was held by the court that there is no bailment in this case. Why? Because the keys, the control were with the lady and there is no contract of bailment in this case. Clear? The next thing is when you are talking about the lockers. The position of the locker is similar, don't you think so? Because the customer is also having a key and bank is also having a key. Even if the bank opens the key, without the customer's key, the bank cannot operate the locker. Isn't it so? So, there is no bailment to the lockers. But, in case, if the bank can open, even operate the customer's key and open the locker, then what is the situation? In such situation, locker, when customer has no control over the safe vault or the locker. For that you have a case law, that is National Bank of Lahore versus Sohan Lal. It's a wonderful example. What happens here is, there is a safe vault in the bank. One key was given to the customer and one key was with the bank. And with both the keys, the locker could be operated. There was a bank manager in this bank. He fraudulently filed the labors and saw that the locker could be opened. He made a keys and saw that yes, the locker could be operated even without the customer's key. So he did this, and one fine day they found out that the customer found out that the locker, whatever the things kept, valuables kept in the locker were found missing. The bank took the contention that one key is with the customer and we have other key. Without the customer key, the bank locker cannot be opened, therefore we are not liable. But it was held that, yes, in this particular case, whatever they took the contention was right, because without customer's key you cannot open. But in this particular case, what had happened was, even without the customer's key, the bank locker could be operated. Therefore, the bank had become liable as a bailee, plus on vicarious liability also. For the acts of the bank manager, the bank was held liable and therefore they had to compensate the customer. Clear? The next part is non-contractual payment. Non-contractual payment means there cannot be bailment without a contract. This is the question now. Can there be a bailment without contract? So we have a series of cases for this to understand it in a better way. First one is Ram Ghulam versus Government of UP. In this case, the property of the plaintiff was stolen and the same was recovered by the police. Again from there it was stolen and it could not be traced. Now the plaintiff brought an action against the police, the government in general. When you are filing against police, it's government, and asked them to recover the property. It was held in this particular case that no, you cannot make the government liable. That is the state liable, because they do not occupy the position of bailee, and moreover, see, public when it is in public police custody, it is discharging the duty or obligations that is imposed by a law, rather than obedience to some executive orders. They are not following any executive orders, but they are following the duty that is imposed by law. So they don't become liable. The state is not liable. Moreover, in conclusion part, it is said that by Allahabad High Court, so they said that there should be a contract of payment. And if at all there is no contract, there cannot be obligation as a bailee. So the point in this decision of the bailment of the contract was not very much satisfied, because under finder of courts, what happens? There is no contract, still he becomes a bailee, right? So on that basis, again further there were some other cases wherein you got to know that even there can be a non-contractual payment, even without certain contract of payment, there can be bailment. Okay. The second case is LM Cooperative Bank versus Prabhudas Hathi Bank. In this case, there is a person A. He had pledged certain tobacco with the bank, and that bank had kept the goods in the A's godown itself, and it had locked, and here the key was with the bank. Later on, after some days, A had failed to clear certain import duties. Some certain income tax duties, and also the IT officers ordered attachment of those tobacco goods. And what the officers did was, they kept it in the same godown, locked it, and gave the key to the police. Now there was a sudden rains, heavy rains, and the roof of the godown started leaking, and the goods inside got damaged. Now it was held in this case that the government stood in the position of the bailee and was liable for having failed to take due care of the goods which were kept in the godown. Clear with this? The next case is State of Gujarat versus Memon Mohammed. In this case, the Supreme Court said that it expressed its view that there is possibility of bailment even without a contract. The case goes like this. The custom authorities seized 2 motor trucks, a station wagon, and other goods belonging to the plaintiff on the ground saying that the plaintiff had not paid certain import duties for the said trucks, and moreover, the trucks which were used were of smuggled goods, and that some goods were also smuggled goods. Subsequently, the revenue tribunal set aside the confiscation by the customs authorities and directed that the plaintiff goods to be released along with the vehicle. Then when the plaintiff applied to return of the goods, he was told that it was being disposed of on the orders of magistrate. From the magistrate, one point to be noted, from the magistrate, the order was wrongfully obtained by making a false representation that the property was unclaimed. Therefore, they asked for the order of disposing it off. Now, this plaintiff, he brought an action for returning of his said vehicles, or alternatively to compensate him for the amount of 32,000. The contention in this case was taken that state is not a bailee as there is no obligation to take care. It was held in this case that after the tribunal had set aside the order of confiscation and asked for the return of the goods of the plaintiff, the government had to do so, and the failure to do so, the government is liable to pay compensation to the plaintiff. So it was their duty to return, which they have failed, hence they are liable to pay compensation. This is your first essential of delivery of goods under contract of bailment.